coming back and joining us. I think it's really important. I started these, what we call fireside chats, even though we don't have the fire going, nor do we even have a fireplace in here. In a spirit of transparency, in a spirit of also recognizing that not everybody reads their e-news or may not have a computer, or people need to hear things 7 different ways, 7 times, all those things. And also to get feedback and to see one another. These are important times. So we're going to call these maybe every month or every 6 weeks or so. We're going to have these after church. It'll be a chance for me to kind of make observations as your pastor about things that are going on, things I'm seeing, things I'm noticing, get feedback from you. And I'm asking you to give feedback. I'm asking you to trust the spirit that we're trying to create here is one of asking questions, both easy and hard ones, right? If we don't do that with each other, again, it is time to ask questions about where things are going on. And why do we do that? Because it's better than doing it out in the parking lot after the meeting and not having the full information, right? And we all hear things differently, and that's normal. I could say the same thing, and people can hear it 50 different ways. So it's important that we're checking our checks and balances all the time, and creating that spirit of openness and grace. So I thank you for sticking around for that. So I want to get a sense from you. How were you in the general vibe of worshiping together? Let's talk about worship. I know that most people are not going to come to me with a critique. They're going to critique to somebody else, right? But all I've heard is really good things about worshiping together in the spirit of more people and how nice it is. But let's hear from you about how you're feeling about this. So as we said, we would just try this for the summer and see how it works. So, Don.
Well, I'd just like to say from a Culture Crown point of view, we are very happy with the people from the Nativity, and we love our pastor.
And the only activity you're happy to hear.
Meeting's over, Bob, is that what you said? Oh. Thank you. Hold on one second, Nancy? No.
I love it, and I love it with all these other people, but I find myself going right back to my old church people and watching, and I don't need to ignore the other people.
Yeah, well, good for you for sort of doing the self-exam and saying, hey, I'm seeing this in myself and I need to break out of that, because what you're doing is setting a great example for other people to kind of think about and doing your own self-check. So thank you. That is important. It is natural for all of us to do that. It's the human nature, but it's important that we make sure that visitors and we're getting to know people, because right now we may not even know who visitors are because we don't necessarily know. And so it's okay to put your foot in your mouth and say, I haven't met you before. That's the way you can say it. I haven't met you before, and then let people talk. So thank you. Did you want to follow up?
Saying, I know I met you before, but I can't remember.
And I remind you that we're trying to have this sort of larger picture directory, if you will, on that bulletin board on the side. So again, if you met somebody, go check to see if they're up there, and their name will be underneath there, and that's kind of a way to help us as well. Okay, Margaret, you had something.
Yes, I just want to follow up Don. This has been the best group, and I just love everybody. I haven't met everybody, obviously, but I do make it a point to say hello, good morning to everybody that I come in contact with. I love it. And I love the group, the harmony of the group. It seems like everybody is so happy and invigorated by what's going on.
Good. Thank you for saying that. Go ahead.
For worship, I have so enjoyed having a choir again. It is great. Plus, I must admit, I have a fondness for a real organ, and I love having the organ. It's been really cool.
Good. Lauren.
For me, it's been a little bit adjusting to, because I have never in my life been a regular churchgoer at a church that has had pews.
And that's coming from a guy that bleeds Lutheran. I mean, he is Lutheran through and through, so you've never been in a church that had pews, so. That's an investment.
It's some,
Yeah.
but I hadn't,
Worship.
been a regular worshiper, I'm so
That's
used
an
to the flexibility that we had at Nativity.
Yeah.
Worship in the free throw line in school.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
So
worship.
the pews
we worship in
are,
the gym.
yeah, the pews are an adjustment for some, to be sure, and, I just don't wanna find anybody sleeping on them, but if you do need a pad, there is our pads available, because these can be a little, hard on the backside. Any other comments on that page?
I just want to say, I've only been here a couple of Sundays because I've been away, but I really love it here. I've been, speaking to Lauren, I've been in churches with pews before, and it was the first church I was not in pews. I love this church, I love the building, it's beautiful, and it's so exciting getting to know the people.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Dwight, you wanted to say something?
I just want to thank the Gospel Ground people for letting us share their facility.
Yes. So you didn't hear that, I just wanted to say thank you to the Gospel Ground folks for your hospitality and for letting us be here and worship with you. So extending that gratitude for him. Yes.
I discovered something about myself. I'm right-handed, but I didn't realize quite how right-handed I was when I took the other day. I thought, well, let's sit over on the left side, and it didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
So I was trying to work over here.
So exactly, so what happens when you go to pews in two sets is that you develop a side. That you're used to, yeah, so that's important to acknowledge. And so try out something new, force yourself to be left-handed on a Sunday. Others, yeah.
I'm glad to be singing the songs that I've known forever. When we go to Arizona, they sing weird songs. They don't sing them
Fair enough. Yeah, okay, so good. And just what a delight too, because we have such a great music team, people also, a lot of music. Danielle is the incredible leader of this great group, and we have a wonderful team of people who both volunteer, and we'll get back to a little more organ in the fall once we have some staffing things figured out. We're blessed that even if David can't come back to play the organ, that we have a member that can, so grateful for that. Just know I'm working on that. We just have to be patient. David Ruberg had that bad burn and is not quite back to, so we're working with him to just kind of figure out whether this is going to be a possibility for him to come back or not. So we will know more. Yeah.
I like the prayers that we're doing for the summer.
Okay.
It's with change comes challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge as us and our members to wake up and say something to bring it up.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. I think one of the cultural differences, so every congregation has an ethos and a culture to it, and my noticing is, and that's okay, that's different, but it's okay, and nativity is really verbal, and not afraid at all to speak up. So those are just cultural differences we're experiencing right now, and we get to learn from each other on that, right? So we'll learn from each other on that. So we encourage those who aren't as comfortable with that. We also understand introversion and extroversion has a play, so I get that. But we also want to encourage people to speak up who don't get a chance to normally, and maybe for those who do speak up a little more often, to give space for those who can, so who need to. Okay, there we go. That's just naming adding the space. That's good. Any other comments just about worship together? So I'm going to just ask you what we call a consensus question. The Quakers do this. Instead of having a vote, right? I'm sensing that we want to move into the fall, maybe still worshiping together in one service. And it's okay so you can say yes. You can say, I could go either way, or you could just say this. So just use your thumb, practice, I think everybody has a thumb. All right, so yes, maybe, or I think we should rethink that. Just getting that, yes, we think we should worship together still in the fall. This is feedback for the councils, so they know, because they have to make a decision this month about what we're doing, and we meet next week in this chapter. Okay, thank you, that's helpful. All right, so let me just give you some important information about what's happening. So, you have been reading, if you've been reading in the bulletin, we have put what we call a transition team together, 3 members from each congregation. Extraordinarily gifted leaders in both churches who really have some game and know what they're doing, and they do. And those folks are looking at our options as to what we could do together or maybe not. So what their job is right now is to do the deep dive. Their job is to explore all of the possibilities, narrow some of them down, and then they're doing the deep dive because as you can imagine, there's constitutional questions for some of these things, there's legal questions, we have to consult with Synod on certain questions, we have to consult with attorneys on certain questions, and not because we're going to go down any one road without your input, but because we want to be able to answer your questions when we bring the options to you. Does that make sense? So nobody's making decisions for you. This is your church. It's churches. This is your church. How would I say that? So nobody is getting out in front of it. What they're doing is taking the deep dive and exploring the options. They will then come to us when they have done their work, and they're working hard, but as we start to do that, we find more work that has to be done. It's just part of the process. And so it might take us a little while. So I'm not going to put a timeline as to when they will come back to us. I can't do that right now. It's not fair to them. What they will do, though, is determine the best approach, too, because these are people that know both churches, too, right? They've been a part of the communities. So they know what might work best. So they're going to propose an approach to the councils that says, hey, we think we should get feedback from the congregations by small groups in people's home, or fireside chat, or by churches, or whatever. They're going to propose, and then we will go about getting information and ideas and thoughts back from you. And we'll be able to answer your questions at that time. If we went with this route, what would that mean for us? And what would be all of the pros and cons to that? So that we can have responses for you. So let's pray for them and their work. They're doing faithful work on our behalf. Let's trust them that they will come to us when they have it ready for us. And if you have feedback or things you want to make sure that they are thinking about that has come across your mind, it's okay to grab them and let them know and just say, hey, I just hope you're also thinking about this, or have you thought about that, and let them answer for you. Some of them are here today, and I'll also list the names here in just a second. I know that's going to be important, but their names will also be listed in the bulletin. I don't know if it's in this week, though, for some reason. So from Nativity, Marcia Holland, Kay Edgerton, and Terry Bowen. So Terry's the only one here this morning, because the other 2 aren't here this morning. And then from Crossing Crown, Todd Zarfos, Janet Heck, who's my other? Oh, Candy Abbott. None of them are here because I think 2 of them are sick. Or you can ask me. I mean, please ask me as well. So just in terms of order, they'll come to us, they'll get our feedback, then they'll go back and make probably a recommendation based on the feedback to the council. Then the council will review all of that. Councils will review all of that. And then ultimately, nobody makes any decisions about any changes unless it's brought to a congregational vote. So we would probably logistically have to have 2 congregational meetings and congregational votes. Whether we do those simultaneously or not, I don't know. But we'll kind of visit that when the time comes. So the good news is we have 3 years to do this. And actually, that's a blessing, because then we, in many ways, no process has to be rushed. But for those of us that tend to be the more impatient types, like me, we might like it to go faster, and so we have to just kind of trust the process. Questions about the transition team or anything that they might be doing or whatever? Okay, in the meantime, oh, yes, sure.
You kind of answered it,
Okay.
but, so we're not gonna rush into a decision.
Nope.
But if it feels right, we may come to a decision soon in the 3 years.
Oh, yes, yes. I don't suspect, yes. So that's a good question. So we're not going to take 3 years, we need 3 years. Right? Yeah, a very fair question. If it's very clear, and we get feedback and it becomes just crystal clear that one of these ways is the right way, and, but I just don't, my emphasis was, please, nobody's going to make a decision. And this is what, for churches that are considering merger or consolidation or remaining 2 churches with 1 pastor, any of those options, churches who go through that, that's why I was getting at a little bit in the sermon this morning. There will be people, there will be factions typically in those congregations that rise up that are trying to undermine the process. And that's why we want to create an atmosphere of doing it differently, right? We want to model for our synod how this can be done and done well in the spirit of grace. And if it takes a year, then it takes a year. If it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months. But nobody's going to make a decision without your input. If that makes sense. So don't think that anybody's trying to
When you're getting your information, make sure you're getting it solid from reliable people, because we kept getting several times, we kept getting information that, when Nativity was not doing really well, that we were gonna close our doors. Well, we got information from what I consider one of our best sources, Maya Holton. He said, no, we're not considering closing you down as a congregation.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So,
You have to
the
have a-
committee's gonna be transparent, and we're gonna get all that information, just
Yes.
make sure that anything you have is from the solid level source committee, not from any hearsay.
Yeah.
That's
We
not-
had a retreat yesterday, and we used the analogy, you know that old analogy that we played as kids, right? And by the time it gets 2 or 3 people down, the message is completely distorted. So that's why we're gonna have these, right? So that you're getting accurate information, and it won't always be me up here, it will be other people that will, today I'm just doing it, but there'll be other people, so you'll have accurate information. And please help spread accurate information if you're gonna spread information. And if you don't know, don't spread it. If you're not sure of your information, don't spread it. Check first. Okay, does that make sense? Okay.
Way makes sense, and I would say, if someone would like come to you and be a little fearful, because maybe they don't want to go to the transition team because they feel like they're being kind of silly to ask a question, or they don't want to go to pastor, say, I'll go with you, let's go right to the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah, thank you, because both communities have had their own histories, right? With, and some we've had along the way, pastors that aren't approachable. I get that. With a group yesterday, listen, I want to be approachable, and if I'm not, you need to tell me. I'm telling you all that right now. If I'm not, call me on it. I may not agree with you, and we ultimately may not go your way because we're making decisions for the Lord, but I do not want to be a person who's not approachable. That is not who I want to be, and I know that all of our times, right? But please know, I want to hear from you. I can't hear from everybody right before worship, though. Please. Let me have that half hour, but come during the week or set an appointment, email me, text me, call me, any of those options, I'm happy to meet with you. And email's a really great way if you just have a real quick question too. But I want to be approachable. So, for the record, just let me know. Okay. So if any questions or wonderings about the transition team, just specifically that, at this point, or anything on terms of that part of the
I don't think
process?
there's something as a dumb question. If
Yeah,
you don't
no.
know the answer, you
Yeah.
want the information,
Yeah.
go ahead and get it.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it's hard to open our mind.
Yeah. Any others? Okay, so let's get on to the other, if there is, shoot your hand up here in a minute. In the meantime, I want you to know that some of our committees and, or sort of our processes, that are, it makes sense for us, even if it's a temporary 3-year thing, for us to be merging some things, right? Example of that is our Church in the World from Nativity team, which was sort of our mission, for lack of a better term, mission team. And the community ministry team from Cross and Crown met yesterday. They've been meeting actually and partnering with each other for the last year, just in anticipation of this move. But we had a wonderful retreat yesterday, in which we were charged to make a recommendation to the councils in August about what we might do with this committee structure and whether or not the current structure with those two teams made sense moving forward. They'll be coming to the councils in the next couple weeks. I'm just going to tell you what the recommendation is, because I've got you here, and council members, I'm just asking for forgiveness if you're going to be upset with me putting the cart before the horse. But their recommendation is going to be that Church in the World ceases in its current form, and that Church in the World ceases in its current form, and that Community District ceases in its current form and gives up those names. We went through and analyzed it all. We had 3 hours together. We analyzed it all, and we have now. It was very clear to us that we need a committee that focuses on external, sort of social justice, mission, all those things. And then one committee that focuses on fellowship, internal community, our community type things. So our recommendation will be that we create 2 new teams, an internally focused, we're not going to name them yet either. Internal focus, external focus. We're going to do a big recruiting of new people because we want, this is a great chance to get involved with one that might have an interest or passion for you. And then when those groups meet in the fall, if this is approved by the councils, when those groups meet in the fall, their first task will be to develop a name and a mission for themselves, a vision statement, and their job description. So that may take them a couple meetings to do that, but that empowers those 2 groups of people to do that. We just are gonna have a different structure to it, okay?
Can I comment on the structure? So we also kind of noticed that we need to be more boy, girl.
Oh, yeah, the structure.
And for another thing, we decided that it would be really cool if each.
Oh, yeah, the structure.
And for another thing, we decided that it would be really cool if each team was co-chaired. So a person from Nativity and a person from Cross and Crown, and that way from the get-go, we're melded. We're like a Brady Bunch, we're a blended family, right?
Yeah. So both committees will have co-chairs, one from Nativity, one from Cross and Crown. So that we don't lose the spirit and the heart behind the ministries that need to be brought back into those spaces. Thank you for reminding us of that. Any questions about that? Again, like I said, that hasn't been approved officially. I don't see why it won't be, but okay, good. So that also took care of that. The other thing I want to mention, you know that I think we're going to stick with this signing up thing, because what it's doing, signing up for helping with worship and in some way usher, altar, what it's doing is inviting people who may not have thought that they could or want to try something, but haven't fit the pigeonhole, right? So it's a chance to try it. And so we're going to keep that going because I've seen that start to unfold a little bit. So we're going to keep trying that in the fall in terms of how we'll sign up for things. But I want to make an expression on one of those, the ushers. So we're going to have 2 ushers every Sunday, but one of them is going to be what we might call a head usher, and the role of that person is I'm right in saying this is what they decided, you guys decided, right, Tim? Essentially. So one of those roles will be able to show up, a half hour before worship and do what the traditional thing is. But the other one will actually need to come an hour early before worship. We've been, as you know, homelessness is on the rise. We want to be careful of our neighbors, but we also have been having lots of issues around the facility, and so we want that person to be willing to also do a sweep beforehand, making sure that trash, drug paraphernalia, other things are picked up before worshipers show up. So we know that not all ushers are going to be comfortable doing that, so know that if you sign up for that head usher role, which that sign up will change. When you sign up for that, that's kind of what you're signing up for that one. If you don't want to do that, you sign up for the other usher role, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll keep reiterating that, but it was kind of a chance to have an audience here for, okay? Just a quick care team ministry update. Delighted that the care team ministry has started at Crossing Crown now as well, and doing a wonderful job. And might I add that while I was on vacation, this pastor's heart sang when she came home and read emails and saw the system work. And watched the system heart sang when she came home and read emails and saw the system work. And watched the system and people take care of each other through the system. I know you all already always take care of each other, but it worked through the system, and so I'm grateful for that. So where we are with it is that Crossing Crown has a care team member, and they each have a group to take care of that little flock, and Nativity does as well. We have a few new recruits, and where we're at now is that we're going to do the next meeting we have will be training for coming with myself and Tammy Zarfos, who is an ordained deacon, to do in-home communion ministry. So for all of our homebound people, our eventual goal is that they will receive, and it will be part of our worship ministry that they are named into our space. So that at the end of communion, one Sunday a month, our care team members will come forward and receive the in-home communion packs. And we name and pray for those who will receive those, and pray for the people that are taking it to them. It'll start with me going with them, me going with them, and eventually when they're ready, them going on, taking it on their own. But we have to live into that. It's going to take us a while, but that's our eventual goal. And so I'm just excited to say that we're at the point where probably in August we'll do that training. So if you're somebody that's still interested in this ministry, you can still get on board with it, be a part of it, let me know. We'd love to have you be a part of that. And we'll announce when that training is, okay? Any questions about that? And then I think finally the other thing I wanted to mention is in addition to these once a month things that we've been having to try to get acquainted. So we have the next one on the 21st, that's the outdoor worship and the barbecue after. On September 11th, which would normally be called maybe Rally Sunday if we had a big Sunday school, or Gathering Sunday, or something like that. It typically kicks off the fall programming and sort of the church year. We are fortunate enough that Bill is going to go up to Alaska and personally fish for salmon for us, bring it back, and we're going to do a salmon bake that day after church, and we're going to do a salmon bake that day after church. Good old-fashioned salmon bake on the fire pit up there. But anyway, then we're going to do a couple other things. We're gonna go with the theme for the year, growing together. And we'll have an art project that morning around the growing together theme. We're gonna have a service project that morning that we can all participate in, creating care kits for the homeless, like toiletry type kits that you can hand out from your car out the window, or that we can hand out at the Meal Coalition or whatever. So we all can participate in that. We'll pull those together. So there'll be some other things that are happening that morning, but that's September 11th. Okay, just giving you a little teaser. And I'm sure Bill would love help, if those of you who know how to do that salmon thing. And he'll be recruiting, but if you have any experience in that, or, because you gotta be here really early to get that salmon going so it's done by 11:30. If you have any experience with that, Bill, stand up, council president, cross the line.
Yeah, as far as the fixing of the fish and that part of it, you know, that would be the.
You'll need some help, lots of help. So we're gonna have signups and all that, but if you already have some, sort of expertise in that, go talk to Bill. He wants to hear from you, okay? Any council members or leadership that I have missed that think needs to be brought into the room? Any closing remarks or questions, concerns? Really, this is a time to ask your questions, or if you're wondering about something, in the spirit of wonder, ask the question. Just don't want people to go out in the parking lot and ask a question. Ask it now. Yes?
Did the facilities team get together?
Oh, yes, yeah, that's another one, yes. So our facilities team, we had a facilities team over at Nativity, most of whom that were remaining and have made the move over here with us, have now also joined the facilities team here. And so those two teams have merged, and we've got lots of projects ahead of us that we're going to be working on. Is there any others that already, yeah, maybe those, the care teams will start working together, that kind of thing. So we're starting to get those places that make sense for us to be doing things together. We're going to keep doing that. Not to put you all on the spot, but our visitors, as an outsider, what kind of, are there questions that you're wondering about? Like, what is this about? Or anything? Because you're Lutherans, I can trust that I can ask the question because you get it. You're not like new to church. But do you, anything from an outsider perspective in terms of wondering? Yeah, well, we're here, just very glad that you are here. We're very glad that you are here. Kevin had some visitors the last few weeks, and so glad about that. Again, I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's important for us to always be thinking about what do people who aren't a part of the community or of the inside knowledge think about things or wonder about, or what perspectives are they understanding. So, anything else before we close? Thank you so much for your presence again. I want to thank you for the time away, and I feel refreshed and excited for this next chapter together. Let me pray us out. God, for the gift of this beloved community, for all who gather here, I give you thanks, praise. And as we morph and change and become something new, we pray that you would continue to bless us and keep us and hold us, and give us faith and hope and conviction in the things unseen. Bless us this afternoon, keep us cool and safe, help us to check in on one another. And until we meet again, we give thanks, all God's people say together. Amen. Go in peace, friends. If people have individual questions for me, I'll stick around for a few minutes.